Listen, I've heard a lot of people freaking out about this whole Olympic thing in regards to the blasphemous, references to the Lord's Supper and whatnot. And I am the first Christian to say that the Lord's Supper is something that's super holy and something that should be taken with the highest level of reverence. Hot take, I'm going to probably lose followers over this one, but I actually think that the Catholic Church does even a better job than the Christian Church does, actually, at, having reverence for the Lord's Supper. But what I will also say is this. I have looked at a lot. I remember when I very first saw the first news article about it, I was like, man, that doesn't really look like the Lord's Supper to me, but whatever. And then I started looking at some more news articles about it, and I started looking at other YouTube videos, and I found no references whatsoever to the Lord's Supper. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'm just like, being dumb here. There's no real food on the table. There's like maybe something in the middle. But then I started counting the people, and it's not 13 people like it was at the Lord's Supper. I found no references at all. The only reference I found was that a French news outlet used the French phrase for the Lord's Supper in reference to the opening ceremony. And I was like, I wonder if Christians are actually freaking out over something that's not really there. Now, mind you, the whole cross-dressing, the whole alphabet community, the whole pushing these things in the face of children, the whole people not dressed appropriately and whatnot, 100% us as Christians should definitely be against that. And I also agree that if the world is bold about the things that the world is bold about, that us as Christians should be even radically bolder about the things that we believe in and the things that God has given us a conviction of. But here is one of the slight nuances with this from what I'm hearing a lot of people say. They're saying the world is preaching, be affirming. We should preach, that this stuff is wrong. I don't think that's the right message that we're preaching. I made a video a couple days ago about how Reverend Franklin Graham, Billy Graham's son, had made a video, or rather a letter that he had wrote to Donald Trump letting him know that he should probably stop cussing. Cool, that's fine. First off, I went on a whole rant on that video about how the Bible actually never says don't cuss. I don't think it's a good look. I wouldn't encourage you to do it, but the Bible actually doesn't ever say don't cuss. So I think that he was really going after the wrong thing or the wrong strategy when it came to what to correct Donald Trump in, especially when we're talking about somebody that, at least for me personally, I don't have any real reason to believe that he's actually born again. When I hear somebody say something like that they don't need forgiveness on multiple different occasions, that's exactly what somebody who is not a believer in Jesus would say, because anybody who's a believer in Jesus recognizes their need for Jesus, which means that they would have to ask for forgiveness. To just say I'm going to do better next time is literally what every core religion other than Christianity believes. In the same way that I don't think Franklin Graham was saying the right message, but rather should have given Donald Trump a reminder or a message to deny himself, to pick up his cross daily, to put his faith in Jesus alone for salvation and not in his own righteousness, or rather his lack thereof, because that would keep him apart from Jesus. I'm all about us making a statement against the alphabet community, this whole cross-dressing movement, this whole be accepting of all of our beliefs, especially with the hypocrisy of you're saying accept our beliefs, but they won't accept Christian beliefs and let Christians just believe what they want. But the real message that we need to be bold in the face of people with and screaming until we're red in the face in love is the message of the gospel being that for salvation. The message we're trying to preach is not of alphabet or not alphabet. It's not of a transgender or not transgender. The message that we as Christians need to be preaching is a preaching of radical boldness for people to deny themselves, pick up their cross daily, and start following Jesus. That they need to count their cost and consider what it would be like to actually follow Jesus before they just ho-hum make a decision. We need to be preaching a message to the American church that praying a prayer is not going to get you to heaven one day. We need to be preaching a gospel that's letting these people who are around the world knowing that just because you got baptized doesn't in and of itself mean anything in regards to salvation. You going to confirmation growing up on a Sunday does not have anything to do with your salvation. But you being saved by grace through faith, not of your own works, lest any man should boast, but it's a free gift of God into salvation. This is the thing that will save your soul if you are willing to give yourself to it. And now that you have been saved, if you have been, that you're now supposed to produce good works as a response to the salvation that you now have, right? Matthew 5, Jesus says, that they will see our good works, let our light so shine before men so that they might see our good works and glorify our Father in heaven. And then later, Matthew 7, he says, good trees bear good fruit, bad trees bear bad fruit. We know the kind of tree that it is by the fruit that it bears. And those that do not bear good fruit are going to be cut down and burned up in an unquenchable fire. He ends the Sermon on the Mount with saying, If you are one who is hearing my words and you obey, you are like a wise man who built his house on a rock. And when the storms do come, the house will not get destroyed. The house will not get knocked down. But you can also be like a man who hears these words. Both men heard the word. Both men had storms come in their life after the word came as well, the one who followed Jesus and the one who did not. And the only difference was the foundation that they built on. And it was a fake foundation. It was a weak foundation that the house was able to be built on. But when the storm came, the second house is the one that got toppled down because the person who heard the words of Jesus did not obey them. The principle of a lot of what we're seeing in the gospel and in the New Testament letters is that those who hear the word are not justified. Those who hear the word and do the word are those who are justified. And this is the same thing that we see in Matthew 13 in the parable of the sower and the seed. That this is a person who heard the word and obeyed the word and persevered till the end is the one that receives the reward. This is the message that we as believers need to be preaching to the world. Preaching a list of morality and do's and don'ts is not going to change anything. Preaching abortion is bad does not change anything about the eternity of the person considering the abortion. Preaching LGBTQ is bad is not changing anything about the eternity of the person with that belief system currently. Preaching Christ crucified is the thing that changes that person's eternity. Once that is changed, there will be a trickle-down effect of all other beliefs changing and submitting to the Word of God once they actually come to a realization or revelation of Jesus as the Messiah. Us as Christians are not preaching this good, that bad, immoral conduct. We're preaching Christ crucified so that they change all of those things afterwards anyways. If it's been of any benefit, consider subscribing. Love you all. Chat soon.